where you served and so forth? What rank, division, all that?
Named Mike Baker, Michael C. Baker, according to the Navy. I was in from 74 to 78. I caught the fall of Saigon. More on my ship, we were off the coast of Cambodia, the fall of Phnom Penh. And I brought some books and things that kind of show you everything, what we were doing. We had refugees. We pushed helicopters over the ship.
Oh.
We had people everywhere on that aircraft carrier, everywhere, as we were pulling out of country. And we took them all to the Philippines and dropped them off on an island. And those poor guys, and some of them, as you know, stayed for 10 years or more.
So you were mainly just there to evacuate
Right.
at that time.
Correct.
Now, for your whole tour, what were you trained to do? And
When I first joined the Navy, I wanted to get into the aviation end of it. Well, unbeknownst to me, my recruiter, those wonderful men there.
I forgot something?
Yes, I wanted to work on airplanes, and he put me to where I was parking them, chalking them, tying them down, and then towards the end of that cruise, I was up on the flight deck helping launch those airplanes, which was scary. Oh boy, one of the most dangerous things I've ever seen. But at the end of that cruise, I took a test down at the ship's administration department, and he says I had the capability or the aptitude to be a jet engine mechanic. So I went to school in Memphis. I flew off the Hancock and I flew to the Philippines to Clark Air Force Base, which is no longer there because of the volcano, and then flew to Memphis and went to school and became a aviation machinist mate. That is. And I worked on F-4 Phantoms for 3 years. But the first year, I was just a poor schlub on the deck of an aircraft carrier.
Now, when you joined, did you enlist? Were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Of course, there was no draft at that time, was there?
No, it just ended.
ended.
Right. I always, ever since I was 6, wanted to be in the Navy anyway. But I lived in Phoenix my whole life, and my parents moved to San Antonio. Well, I followed them probably 6 months later after school let out and everything, and I joined down there. But I first went into the Air Force, because San Antonio's got a big Air Force population. And I first went into the Air Force recruiter's office, and I could not get waited on. I rang the bell, nobody came to the window, so I walked out. 3 doors down was the Navy recruiter. I walked in, the guy says, "Sure, come on in."
We'll take you.
And 30 days later, I was on a flight to San Diego. And I ended up staying in San Diego 15 years. Loved the water.
And how did you end up here?
My wife is born and raised in Red Lion.
Okay.
And in San Diego, she was my next door neighbor. And one day, I looked over the fence as I was rebuilding the lawnmower, and she was sunning herself. So I said, "Hey, put some clothes on." And that night, she asked me to dance, to go to a dance, and we've been together ever since.
Okay. So you were not married or anything when you entered the service?
No, I knew
Single
better.
guy?
I watched a lot of marriages suffer
Yeah.
because of the service.
Okay. Now, the people that became your close friends when you were in the service, was it just kind of by accident who you ended up beside? Or was it
No,
more
it's personalities.
interest? Okay.
Personalities, just like anybody else, anywhere else. You tend to gravitate towards people that share your views and ideas.
How many people were on your ship,
Uh,
approximately?
approximately 2,000.
Okay.
And as my career in the Navy went on, I was on 3 aircraft carriers total. The last aircraft carrier I was on, the Coral Sea, held more than the first one I was on. Because the first one I was on was built in 1944, and that was the last cruise. They made razor blades out of it or whatever. And I went to the Oriskany, which also was the last cruise, and they made razor, and then the Coral Sea, which I understand is still around.
Now, have you been able to keep in contact with any of the people from
Didn't
the
want
service?
to.
Didn't want to. Okay.
Those were some bad times. I enjoyed my job. I hated the organization.
Okay.
I really loved my job working on those airplanes. I liked it when the pilots came down and said, "Hey, this is wrong," or "This is the sound it's making." Same as I do now when I work on a car. They describe the sound and I go fix it. And I really enjoyed my job.
Okay. Were you able to transfer that over when you got out or anything?
I tried. Well, like I say, I got out in San Diego, and there's a big population in that whole area,
Yeah.
Boeing and Donald Douglas and everything, and there's just saturated. So I went into the metal manufacturing business. We made motorcycle parts, and I learned how to weld and lathe, and I just went a whole different direction. But I never lost the ability to wrench, to get out there and turn a wrench on stuff.
Okay. Is there any particular highlight that stands out in your mind of your time in the service?
The day I broke my arm. We were up for 23 hours, and this is when all the refugees had just stopped arriving. And the captain gave us a little time. He said, stand down, everybody go relax. And we went up and started playing blackjack with no sleep and everything else, but we were just coffee, you know. And we got in a fight, and I broke my arm. And that really stands out.
Now, when you said that you were evacuating the refugees and so forth from the fall of Cambodia, were these people basically in the water? Were they?
No, the first 6 hours was nothing but helicopter.
Okay.
Anything they could fly. They were flying single-engine aircraft. Anything they could get out of there. Anything, because the communists were just rolling over. Towards the end of the next day, banana boats is what we call them. They're little canoe-looking, long canoe-looking things. And some have thatched huts that they sit in to keep out the weather. And we couldn't hold any more. It seemed physically impossible to hold any more people on the ship. We had people sleeping everywhere. But they would light their little boats on fire. Because we would tell them in their own language, go to another ship, and they just light their boats on fire. Well, we couldn't let them die, so we'd send out a boat to pick them up. Now that happened all the second day, and it was crazy. As far as you could see, this direction, that direction, forward and backward, was nothing but ships. And the air was just full of helicopters.
And it was just pure luck whether you would be one of the people that were evacuated.
Right. When I went in, the war was over. It was declared over, Nixon was pardoned, and Ford said, hey, it's over. Okay, I'll go in. And then he sent us all over there.
If I'm thinking from a student's perspective, could you tell a little bit about what was going on in Cambodia that, there was this communist
Well,
takeover?
Pol Pot was just ceding power then, and he was taking everything, and he was murdering, as we now know, millions and millions of people. At that time, that's what was happening. At the same time, Khmer Rouge was operating, and they were doing it too. So the poor people of Cambodia, they had it on both ends. The good guys were the bad guys, and the bad guys were the bad guys. And just those poor people. And they were, like I say, they were coming out in anything. Anything they could, that would float, fly, anything to get out of that country.
And so for someone that's not familiar with Khmer Rouge, it was the political coup formation of Pol Pot.
Correct.
The people that were there were basically, it was a type of genocide. Correct? Am I correct?
Yes. It was horrible. I look now on the History Channel and so forth, and you see the rows of pictures. People, right before they kill them, they take their pictures. And it's unbelievable. I think back to the days I was there, I had no idea. Nobody did what was going on, except secretly, of course. We as sailors had no idea. If we did, I'm sure we would have treated them much more compassionate than we did. We gave them everything they wanted. We would have been a lot nicer, a lot, had we known.
And then, of course, the government did fall.
Right. And it's like on at the same time. Both countries fell under communist rule at the same time.
Okay. Is there anything, as far as your experiences, I know you said you enjoyed your work, but you did not enjoy particularly the Navy experience?
The organization where I was a mechanic, and here comes a guy who works on electrics, for example, in another part of the ship, could tell me what to do. I felt that wasn't correct.
Just
because of rank, exactly. He had no idea what I did, and yet he could tell me where to go, what to do, salute, and all that. And I hated that. I resented it, actually. So right before I got out, I was in Miramar Naval Air Station in San Diego. And the captain of my very first ship happened to be the Admiral Base. So when I walked into his office, he personally called me and said, please come in for a chat. So I walked in, he said, I noticed you and I served together. And I said, yes, sir. And he says, what can I do to make you stay in the Navy? He said, I got a report here, you're an excellent mechanic, good communication skills and all that. And I said, well, sir, may I call in sick when I'm not feeling well? May I grow my hair? May I not wear the exact same clothes as my family? No, you can't. See ya. And I left. And that was why. It was the organization. But the work was admirable, and I loved it. I really did.
Have you, and you said you had not been able to keep up with it when you didn't really particularly have
Didn't
an urge
want to. Right.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to say in general about your time in the military?
I recommend it for everybody.
Okay.
I think the countries that have mandatory, I don't think that's a bad idea for certain individuals. I think high school, you come out with a certain GPA that's not, I think you should. If you're not going to college, take a tour. I think it opens everybody's eyes on world politics, world affairs, and then when you come back to the United States, you get the internal affairs of the government because you're in the government. I mean, it's a wonderful experience if you want to learn.
Is there anything that we've overlooked that you would like to add to the conversation?
Such as?
Just anything that for some reason or another that we have not touched upon.
It affected my family back here. I brought some stuff from my sister. Brought tears to my eyes. I went, to make it short there, I went away a boy and came back a stranger. And my little sister, she just never, as a matter of fact, I'm estranged from my entire family. I don't talk to my parents or my sisters. I came back a completely different person when I left. There was a lot of bad things. Losing my family didn't really break my heart. I've got another beautiful wife, 2 kids. I'm happy.
And I think that's something that's kind of hard for people to understand that I don't think anyone comes back the same as the way they left.
Not after what I saw. Death firsthand, a helicopter smashing the ship, airplanes missing, blowing up in front of you. I just saw too much. It changed my perception of life and reality to the point where I just didn't care anymore. Nothing mattered anymore. I didn't care. So consequently, I became very self-destructive. And that turns out that's a natural thing for a lot of guys in the service because they were born and raised and sheltered by their parents. Reality really is hard to take sometimes. When you're at that age, you're fresh out of high school, you just went to the prom, here you are in war. It's very.
And how long did it take you to see for yourself what you were doing to yourself and your self-destructiveness until you were able to turn it around for yourself? Still working on that?
No, it was about, I guess about 86, 87. I finally settled into here, this is me. I'm comfortable now. I, at that time, had 7 motorcycles.
June 12, 2001.